The Battle of Nexus Prime would be remembered as the day the galaxy learned what humans really were. Fleet Admiral Lee Subin stood on the bridge of the Busan's Defiance, watching the largest space battle in galactic history unfold before her. Ships from 50 different species fought together against the Dravek swarm, all of them following tactics that humans had taught them. Enemy reinforcements jumping in from Sector 7, reported her tactical officer. Looks like 300 swarm vessels, maybe more. Lee Subin nodded calmly. A year ago, news like that would have meant certain defeat. The swarm had never retreated, never been stopped, never been anything but a force of pure destruction. But that was before they met humanity. Signal all ships, she ordered. Execute pattern Chaos 7. Across the battlefield, human and alien vessels scattered like leaves in the wind. To anyone watching, it looked like complete disorder. Ships flew in every direction with no apparent plan. Some headed straight for the enemy. Others seemed to flee toward empty space. The swarm creatures, each one the size of a city, moved to intercept what they thought was a panicked retreat. Their collective intelligence had learned to read galactic military tactics over centuries of conquest. They knew how civilized species fought. They didn't know how humans fought. Now, Lee Subin whispered. The scattered ships suddenly weren't scattered anymore. They were exactly where they needed to be. The fleeing vessels had positioned themselves behind swarm reinforcements. The charging ships had drawn the main enemy force into a trap. In seconds, the disordered retreat became a perfectly coordinated ambush. Beautiful, said her communications officer, who happened to be a Velthari. 6 months ago, his people had called humans too chaotic to be trusted. Now he watched human tactics with something like wonder. The battle raged for 3 days around Nexus Prime, the crystal world where humanity had been condemned 10 years before. The great amphitheater where aliens had voted for human exile now stood in the shadow of burning starships. Colonel Oh Seung-ho led his strike teams deep into swarm-controlled space, hitting the creatures' nursery ships with surgical precision. These were the vessels where new swarm creatures were born from consumed matter. Destroy them and the swarm couldn't replace its losses. Remember, he told his teams over the radio, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to win, period. The strike teams used every dirty trick humans had ever invented. They hid inside asteroid fields until swarm patrols passed, then struck without warning. They used enemy signals to confuse swarm communications. They even rammed damaged ships into critical targets when conventional weapons failed. It was warfare without honor, glory, or rules. It was human warfare. Commander Jiang Min-jung developed new flying patterns that confused the swarm's collective intelligence. Her pilots flew in formations that looked random, but contained hidden mathematics. The swarm creatures tried to learn and adapt, but there was nothing to learn. How does this work? Asked a Korthak pilot after flying one of Jiang's patterns. It doesn't, she replied. That's why it works. The aliens were starting to understand something important about humanity. These weren't the chaotic warriors the galaxy had feared. They were problem solvers who had learned to use chaos as a tool. But humanity's greatest contribution to the war wasn't military. It was teaching the galaxy how to work together. Diplomat Kim Yoo-jin had the hardest job of anyone in the fleet. She had to keep dozens of species united when their natural instinct was to blame each other for every setback. The Zelani are hoarding medical supplies, complained a Velthari commander. The Velthari won't share intelligence about swarm movements, accused a Korthak admiral. The Korthak refused to coordinate their attacks with our schedule, said a Zelani captain. Kim listened to it all with endless patience. She had learned something during humanity's exile that the aliens were just discovering now. Survival required cooperation, even with people you didn't like. You're all right, she told them during one heated meeting. Every species here has good reasons not to trust the others. You've been enemies for thousands of years, but the swarm doesn't care about your history. It just wants to eat you all. She pulled up a map of the galaxy showing the worlds the swarm had consumed. Look at this. The swarm doesn't care if you're Velthari or Korthak or Zelani. Dead worlds all look the same to them. You can spend time fighting each other, or you can spend time fighting the real enemy. Your choice. Slowly, painfully, the galaxy began to learn cooperation. Species shared resources they had hoarded for centuries. Old enemies worked side by side on joint projects. Military forces that had never trusted each other started operating as a single unit. The humans made it work by showing them how. Human engineers taught alien technicians how to repair each other's equipment. Human doctors treated anyone who was hurt regardless of species. Human soldiers fought alongside beings who had voted for their exile. "I don't understand your people," Admiral Thelvara said to Kim during a brief break in the fighting. "What don't you understand? We condemned you. We cast you out of the galaxy. We made sure you suffered for 10 years. And now you're here, dying to protect us. Why?" Kim was quiet for a moment, thinking of Earth in the dark years after exile. "The shortages, the fear, the feeling of being abandoned by the universe because that's not who we are," she said finally. "You judged us by your own standards. You thought we would be as petty and vindictive as you were. You were wrong." The breakthrough came when Dr. Kang Yunsu activated the experimental weapons that humans had built during their exile. 10 years of forced innovation had created technology that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. The weapons didn't work through brute force. They worked by understanding patterns the galaxy had never noticed. While alien scientists had focused on building bigger guns, humans had focused on understanding their enemy. Activating disruption field, Dr. Kang reported from her lab aboard the Soul's Pride. The effect was immediate and devastating. Swarm creatures across the battlefield suddenly stopped coordinating. Their collective intelligence, which had made them unstoppable, shattered like glass. "How did you do that?" asked a Velthari scientist who was monitoring the battle. "We studied them," Dr. Kang replied. "While you were building stronger weapons, we were learning how they think. You can't kill an idea with a bigger gun, but you can break it with a better idea." The isolated swarm creatures cut off from their collective mind became confused and vulnerable. Ships that had been invincible suddenly couldn't adapt to changing tactics. Creatures that had consumed worlds started making simple mistakes. The tide of battle turned in hours. As swarm reinforcements broke apart and fled toward deep space, President Han So-young arrived at Nexus Prime aboard the Yao, diplomatic vessel Soul's Hope. She had come to address the Galactic Council, in the same chamber where humanity had been condemned. The great amphitheater was different now. Alien representatives who had once sat in judgment of humanity now looked to her for leadership. The beings who had voted so confidently for human exile now understood what they had almost lost. "President Han," said the Velthari representative, "we owe you an apology. We were wrong about your species, terribly wrong." Han looked around the chamber where her people had been condemned. The crystal wall still bore scorch marks from the battle that had raged outside. "You were wrong," she agreed, "but not in the way you think." The aliens looked confused. "You thought we were dangerous because we fought when threatened. You thought we were chaotic because we didn't follow your rules. You thought we were unworthy because we were different." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You weren't wrong about what we are. You were wrong about what those things mean. Our willingness to fight made us your defenders. Our chaos made us unpredictable enough to defeat an enemy you couldn't understand. Our difference made us strong enough to save you all." The vote to readmit humanity to the galactic community was unanimous. 847 species voted to welcome back the people they had cast out. But President Han's response surprised everyone. "We'll consider your offer," she said, "but not as supplicants grateful for your acceptance. If we rejoin the galaxy, it will be as equals who have earned our place through our actions, not through your approval." The galaxy had turned its back on humanity. Now humanity was deciding whether to forgive them for it. And in that moment, the aliens finally understood what they had really lost 10 years ago. Not a dangerous enemy, but the one force that could have saved them all along. The Inchin Rising dropped out of hyperspace like a ghost returning from the dead. Captain Nam Kiwu studied the screens showing the Velthari system, and what he saw made his stomach turn. 3 of the 5 Velthari worlds were gone. Not destroyed, consumed. Where green planets had once orbited their star, only empty space remained. The Dravik swarm had eaten everything, down to the last grain of sand. The remaining 2 worlds were under siege. Massive creatures the size of battleships swarmed around them like hungry insects. Each creature pulsed with a sickly light as it fed on the planets below. "Captain," said his communications officer, "I'm getting signals from other ships." Behind the Inchin Rising, more human vessels appeared. The Soul's Hammer, built in the shipyards of Mars. The Busan's Pride, assembled from asteroid metal in the belt. Dozens of ships that had been hidden for 10 years, waiting for this moment. They weren't pretty ships. No smooth alien curves or exotic materials. These were human ships, Tough, practical, built to work in the worst conditions. Mining vessels turned into carriers, cargo haulers equipped with experimental weapons. Even luxury liners converted to hospital ships. "Open a channel to the Velthari," Captain Nam ordered. The face that appeared on his screen made him pause. Admiral Thelvara had been one of the aliens who testified against humanity at their trial. Her 6 arms had gestured dramatically as she called humans dangerous. Her black mirror eyes had shown nothing but contempt. Now those same eyes showed only desperate hope. "Humans?" she whispered. "But you were exiled. Why are you here?" Captain Nam kept his voice steady. "Because it's the right thing to do. Send us your defensive positions. We're moving to intercept the swarm." What followed was humanity's first real battle against an alien enemy that wasn't interested in talking. "Commander," Park Hyun-woo led the first wave of human fighters toward a cluster of swarm creatures, approaching Velthari Prime. His pilots flew ships held, together with determination and spare parts, facing monsters that had devoured 100 worlds. "Remember your training," he told his squadron over the radio. "These things are big, but they're not smart like us. They react to patterns, so don't give them patterns to learn." The battle was unlike anything humans had ever experienced. The swarm creatures moved like living ships, their bodies changing shape to avoid weapons fire. They fired beams of energy that could cut through metal like paper. But they had never fought humans before. Where alien fleets had attacked in neat formations, humans swarmed like angry bees. Where other species used overwhelming firepower, humans used tricks and traps. When traditional tactics failed, humans made up new ones on the spot. "Gold Leader, this is Gold 3, came a voice over the radio. "I can't get a clear shot at that big one." "Then don't take a clear shot," Park replied. "Use the asteroid field. Make it chase you into the rocks." The human pilot led the swarm creature on a wild chase through floating chunks of metal and ice. The creature, focused on its prey, didn't notice the trap until too late. The asteroid field channeled it into a narrow space where the other human fighters waited. The creature died in a burst of light. Its ancient hunger finally ended. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Species that had voted for humanity's exile watched in stunned silence as human ships threw themselves into battle after battle. Dr. Song Hye-jin worked in the medical bay of the Soul's Pride, treating wounded Velthari soldiers alongside injured human marines. The aliens stared at her with their mirror eyes, unable to understand why she would save beings who had condemned her species. "Why do you help us?" asked a wounded Velthari warrior. Dr. Song looked up from her work. "Because you're hurt and I'm a doctor. That's all the reason I need." The war changed both humans and aliens. The galaxy began to see that these exiled humans fought differently than anyone else. They didn't seek glory or conquest. They sought solutions. Engineering Chief Ryu Dong-min turned Cargo Bay 3 into a weapons factory, building new tools to fight the swarm between battles. His team worked around the clock, modifying mining lasers into ship killers, turning construction equipment into weapons of war. "We need more firepower," reported Captain Nam after a particularly hard battle. "The swarm adapts too fast to our weapons." "Then we'll build weapons that adapt faster," Ryu replied. It wasn't just the weapons that changed. The humans changed the way the galaxy fought. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years found themselves working together under human coordination. Diplomat Kim Yoo-jin spent her days mediating between alien groups that wanted to kill each other almost as much as they wanted to stop the swarm. The Korthak blamed the Velthari for not warning them about the swarm. The Velthari accused the Zilani of abandoning their colonies. Old hatred threatened to tear apart the alliance before it could really begin. "You can fight each other after we stop the swarm," Kim told them during one heated argument. "Right now you need each other to survive." Slowly, painfully, the galaxy began to work together. Human tactics spread to alien fleets. Species that had never spoken to each other started sharing information. The rigid military doctrine that had failed against the swarm gave way to human flexibility. 6 months after the first human intervention, the war's character began to change. The swarm, which had consumed worlds without resistance, started meeting real opposition. Fleet Admiral Choi Min-seok coordinated the largest combined fleet in galactic history, from his flagship, the Busan's Defiance. Ships from dozens of species flew in formation, They're different designs and technologies working together under human tactical planning. The key is not to fight them the way they expect, he told his alien commanders during a strategy meeting. They learn from patterns, so we don't give them patterns, we give them chaos. The aliens had trouble understanding human tactics at first. Where they saw disorder, humans saw opportunity. Where they saw defeat, humans saw problems to solve. This makes no sense, complained a Korthak admiral. Your ships are attacking from 17 different directions at once. There's no coordination. That is the coordination, Choi replied. The swarm can't adapt to what it can't predict. The battle for the Nexus system proved him right. The same crystal worlds where humanity had been condemned became the site of the galaxy's greatest victory against the swarm. Human ships darted between alien vessels like dancers in a deadly ballet. They struck where the swarm least expected, vanished when the creatures tried to respond, and appeared somewhere else entirely to strike again. The galaxy watched in amazement as the unstoppable swarm began to stumble. These creatures that had devoured worlds were confused by human unpredictability. They couldn't learn patterns that didn't exist. As the battle ended with swarm creatures retreating for the first time in galactic memory, Admiral Thelvara approached Captain Nam on the command deck of his ship. I don't understand, she said. We cast you out. We called you dangerous. We turned our backs on you completely. Why did you come back to help us? Nam looked out at the stars through the ship's windows. Somewhere out there, human ships were helping to rebuild worlds the swarm had damaged. Human doctors were treating alien wounded. Human engineers were sharing their hard-won knowledge with beings who had once scorned them. You're right, he said finally. You did turn your backs on us, but we're not you. The simple words carried a weight that made the alien admiral step back. In them, she heard everything the galaxy had missed about humanity. Their refusal to abandon others, even when others abandoned them. Their determination to help, even when help wasn't deserved. The galaxy had cast out humanity because they feared what humans might become. Now they were seeing what humans had chosen to become instead. And for the first time in 10 years, the aliens began to understand what they had really lost when they voted for exile. The first reports came in broken pieces, scattered across the alien communication networks like whispers of a nightmare. Admiral Cho Jae-sung sat in the command center of Titan Base, reading the intercepted messages that his team had decoded. The words made his blood run cold. Sir, said Colonel Bae Young-mi, her voice tight with worry. Another transmission just came in. The Velthari outer colonies. They're gone. Cho looked up from his screen. Gone? What do you mean gone? Consumed, sir. 3 billion people. The entire population of their border worlds. Something called the Dravik Swarm hit them 4 days ago. There's nothing left but empty space. Cho had heard stories about the Dravik Swarm in the old alien databases. Ancient creatures that lived in the dark between galaxies. They came like locusts eating everything in their path, turning matter into more of themselves. Most aliens thought they were just legends. The legends were wrong. More reports flooded in hour by hour. The Korthak homeworld under attack. Entire star systems going dark. Fleets of alien warships being destroyed so fast that their distress calls cut off in mid-sentence. How many worlds have fallen? Cho asked. Young Mai checked her computer. 17 confirmed. Maybe twice that many we can't reach anymore. And sir, they're heading inward. Toward the galactic core. Toward Earth. On the other side of human space, Director Lim Jun-soo watched the same reports from Global Defense Command on Earth. His computers tracked the swarm's movement, calculating speed and direction. The numbers were terrifying. Show me the projection, he told his team. The main screen lit up with a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked where the swarm had struck. A yellow line showed their path, straight toward the center where most civilized worlds lived. At their current rate, said his assistant Dr. Kim, they'll reach the galactic core in 15 years. After that they come for us, Lim finished. The galaxy that had exiled humanity was tearing itself apart in panic. The same aliens who had voted so confidently to cast out the humans now sent desperate messages begging for help from anyone who would listen. The Galactic Council, which had seemed so powerful and united during humanity's trial, cracked under pressure. Old enemies blamed each other for not seeing the threat coming. Allies abandoned each other to save their own worlds. The Velthari are requesting emergency aid, Young-mi reported to Admiral Cho. They're offering trade agreements, Technology sharing, even territory if someone will help them. Cho almost laughed. The same aliens who had called humans dangerous were now offering bribes for help. The same beings who had voted to exile humanity were learning what real danger looked like. But the laughter died in his throat. This wasn't just about the aliens anymore. The swarm wouldn't stop at alien worlds. When they finished eating the galaxy, they would come for Earth too. On Earth, President Han So-young called an emergency meeting of the Human Assembly. Representatives from every colony, every station, every ship gathered in the Great Hall via video link. The debate that followed would decide humanity's fate. "They cast us out," said the representative from Mars colony. "Why should we help them now?" "Because they're still people," replied the delegate from Europa Station. "Different from us, but still thinking, feeling beings. We can't just watch them die." "They watched us suffer for 10 years, said another voice. "They made sure we couldn't trade, couldn't expand, couldn't even leave our own star system. Now they want our help." Admiral Cho spoke from Titan Base. "The swarm won't stop with alien worlds. Once they consume the galaxy, they'll come for us. This isn't about helping the aliens. It's about survival." The argument went on for hours. Some humans wanted revenge, to let the galaxy burn for what it had done to them. Others believed that helping was the right thing to do regardless of the past. In the end, it was President Han who settled the matter. 10 years ago, they judged us, she said. They decided we were too dangerous, too violent, too different to share the galaxy with them. Today, we get to show them who we really are. She paused, looking at the faces on the screens around her. We could stay hidden here in our corner of space. We could wait and hope the swarm destroys itself on alien worlds before it reaches us. We could let billions die while we do nothing. Another pause. But that's not who we are. That's not who humans are. We don't abandon people who need help, even if those people once abandoned us. We're better than that. We have to be better than that. The vote was close, but it passed. Humanity would intervene. The decision meant revealing secrets that humans had kept hidden for 10 years. Ships built in secret shipyards. Weapons developed in underground labs. Technology born from years of forced innovation. Admiral Cho received his orders the next day. Take the fleet to Velthari space. Engage the swarm. Show the galaxy what humans can do. As his ships prepared to leave human space for the first time in a decade, Cho thought about the irony. Humanity's first act after being freed from exile would be to save the aliens who had exiled them. The swarm was vast and terrible, consuming worlds like a hungry animal. But they had never faced humans before. They had never met a species that saw impossible odds as just another problem to solve. The galaxy had 10 years to regret casting out humanity. Now they would see what those 10 years had created. They would learn what humans became when they had nothing left to lose except their principles. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity back to the galaxy that had rejected them. This time, they came not as supplicants asking for acceptance, but as saviors offering salvation. Whether the galaxy deserved saving or not, humans would find out. But they would try, because that's what humans did. They helped even when it hurt. They saved others even when others wouldn't save them. The swarm had consumed 100 worlds. Soon they would learn what happened when they tried to consume one that fought back with everything humans had learned in their exile. The galaxy was about to discover what they had really cast out 10 years ago, not a threat to be contained, but the one force that might save them all. 5 years had passed since the ships came home from Nexus Prime. 5 long years of silence from the stars. Commander Lee Min-ho floated in his spacesuit outside Mining Station 7, watching his crew work on the broken harvester. The machine was old, built back when humans could trade with aliens for the good metal parts. Now they had to make do with whatever they could find in the asteroid belt. "Hand me that wrench, Jinsu," he said into his radio. "Which one, Commander?" came the reply. "The one held together with tape or the one missing half its teeth?" Lee Min-ho almost smiled. His crew still had their sense of humor even after all this time. They needed it. Everything was breaking down, and they had no way to get new parts. Back on Earth, things were getting harder every day. The planet held 12 billion people, and they all needed food, air, and power. Before the exile, Earth had imported food from dozens of farm worlds. Rare metals came from alien mining operations. Even simple things like medical supplies had come from other planets. Now there was only what humans could make themselves. On Europa Station, Chief Engineer Kim Da-hee worked 18 hours every day trying to keep the ice miners running. The station dug water ice from Jupiter's moon and sent it to Earth. Without that water, billions would die. But the machines were dying too. Every week brought new problems. Fusion reactors that had run for decades started to fail. Computer systems crashed and couldn't be fixed without alien-made chips. Even the lights dimmed as power became scarce. "We're losing Reactor 3, reported Engineer Park from the control room. "The magnetic containment is failing again." Kim Da-hee rubbed her tired eyes. "Can we patch it?" "For maybe a week. But we need new coils and we don't have the materials to make them." It was the same story everywhere. Mars Colony had cut its population in half to save resources. The research station at Proxima Centauri had gone dark completely. They just didn't have enough ships to supply it anymore. But something strange was happening in the silence. Something the aliens who voted for exile had not expected. In the underground labs beneath Luna City, Dr. Yoon Tai-ho led a team of the smartest humans alive. They worked in secret, away from the watching eyes of alien spy drones that patrolled the edge of human space. "Show me the new power cell design," Dr. Yoon said to his assistant, Song. Song pulled up the plans on a simple computer screen. No fancy alien technology here, just human engineering pushed to its limits. "It's crude compared to what we used to import," Song admitted. "But it works, and we can build it with materials we already have." Dr. Yoon nodded. It wasn't pretty, but it would power a mining laser for twice as long as the old alien-made cells. They were learning to do more with less. Learning to build things that worked without exotic materials from across the galaxy. Across human space, the same thing was happening. Cut off from alien trade, humans had to become creative. They found new ways to grow food in small spaces. They built machines that could fix themselves. They even learned to make their own medicine from earth plants. The aliens had wanted to weaken humanity by cutting them off. Instead, they were making humans stronger. President Han So-young stood in the United Earth Government building, looking out at the city below. The lights were dimmer than they used to be, but they were still on. People still walked the streets. Children still played in the parks. "Ma'am," said her aide, "the monthly resource report is ready." President Han took the tablet and read the numbers. Food production was up 3%. Water recycling was more efficient than ever. Even population growth had slowed as families chose to have fewer children in the difficult times. "We're surviving," she said quietly. "Yes, ma'am, but for how long?" President Han looked up at the stars through her office window. Somewhere out there, alien ships made sure no human vessel could leave the Sol system. The galaxy had moved on without them, probably thinking the human problem was solved. They were wrong. "Send a message to all colony leaders," she said. "Tell them to prepare for Phase 2. Phase 2 was the plan they had worked on in secret for 5 years. Not just survival, growth. Not just making do with what they had, making it better. In hidden shipyards behind the moon, workers built new vessels. They weren't as fast or pretty as alien ships, but they were tough. Built by humans for humans to do human work. The materials came from asteroids that humans mined themselves. The power came from fusion reactors that humans designed. Even the computers ran on code that humans wrote. "The galaxy thought cutting us off would kill us," President Han said to her aide. "They forgot that humans have been cut off before. We've always found a way." She thought about Earth's history. Humans stranded on islands had learned to build boats. Humans trapped in deserts had learned to find water. Humans facing ice ages had learned to make fire. Being alone in space was just another challenge. And humans were very good at solving challenges. On Mining Station 7, Commander Lee Min-ho watched his crew finish fixing the harvester. It wouldn't win any beauty contests, but it worked. It would dig more metal from the asteroids to feed Earth's growing factories. "Good work, everyone," he said over the radio. "Let's get her back online." The machine hummed to life, its crude but effective systems starting their endless work. Around the station, dozens of other machines did the same. All of them built by human hands, powered by human innovation, guided by human determination. The aliens had 5 years to forget about humanity, 5 years to get comfortable with their decision, 5 years to believe the threat was gone. Those 5 years were almost over. In the darkness between stars, humanity had learned something important. They didn't need the galaxy's permission to exist. They didn't need alien approval to grow. They didn't need anyone's help to become what they were meant to be. The galaxy had turned its back on them. Soon it would turn around again, and when it did, it would find that humanity had not faded away in the darkness. Instead, they had learned to make their own light. The Great Hall on Nexus Prime stretched as far as the eye could see. Hundreds of alien beings filled the crystal seats that rose in circles around the center floor. Some had wings that glowed with soft light. Others looked like walking trees with silver bark. A few were so strange that humans had no words to describe them. Admiral Kang Wu stood in the middle of it all. His dark blue uniform was pressed and clean, but his face showed the weight of what was happening. Around him, the voices of 800 different species mixed into a sound like rushing water. The trial had been going on for 3 days. 3 days of listening to aliens tell the galaxy why humans were dangerous. 3 days of watching beings who had never set foot on Earth decide the fate of 12 billion people. The humans expand too fast, said the Velthari ambassador. She was tall and thin with 6 arms and eyes like black mirrors. They take worlds that do not belong to them. They build cities where none should exist. Murmurs of agreement echoed through the hall. Kang Wu kept his face calm, but inside his heart was heavy. He remembered the first human colony on New Eden. Families from Earth had worked for years to turn that dead rock into a green world. They had followed every rule, filed every paper, asked permission for everything. But the Velthari wanted that world too. Dr. Park Soo-jin stepped forward. She was small next to the alien giants around her, but her voice was strong. "We came in peace," she said. "Humans have shared their medicine with your sick. We have taught you how to grow food on dead worlds. We have given freely of our knowledge." The Korthak delegate made a sound like grinding metal. He was huge and covered in what looked like gray stone. "Humans are warriors," he said. "They fight when others seek peace. They carry weapons where none are needed." Kang Wu wanted to laugh, but it would have been bitter. Yes, humans carried weapons. They had learned long ago that the galaxy was not always safe. Pirates attacked trade ships. Some species saw humans as weak because they were new. A few alien groups thought human worlds would be easy to take. "We defend ourselves," Dr. Park said. "Nothing more. When the Zilani attacked our colony on Farhaven, we fought back. When pirates raided our trade routes, we stopped them. Is it wrong to protect our families?" But the aliens were not listening anymore. Their minds were made up. Kang Wu could see it in their faces, their postures, the way they looked at the humans like something dirty. The vote came fast. A wall of light showed the results as each species cast their choice. Red meant exile. Blue meant freedom. Red, red, red. The lights kept coming, an endless stream of red that filled the wall. 846 species voted to cast humanity out of the galaxy. Only one voted blue, the humans themselves. The hall erupted in celebration. Aliens clicked, whistled, and sang in joy. They had removed the threat. They had cleaned the galaxy of the human problem. Kang Wu stood slowly. The noise died down as the aliens waited to hear what the defeated human would say. "We came to you with open hands," he said. His voice carried to every corner of the Great Hall. "We offered friendship, knowledge, and help. You have chosen to see us as enemies instead." He paused and looked around the hall. His eyes met those of beings who had once called themselves friends of humanity. "You celebrate today because you think you have won, but you have not won anything. You have only shown who you really are. History will remember this day, and it will not remember you kindly." The aliens fell silent. Some looked uncomfortable, others angry. A few seemed almost sad. Kang Wu turned and walked toward the exit. Dr. Park and the rest of the human team followed him. Their footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet hall. Outside, their ship waited. The Soul's Pride was old but reliable, built in the shipyards above Earth 20 years ago. It would carry them home for what might be the last time. As they lifted off from Nexus Prime, Kang Wu looked back at the crystal city shrinking below. Somewhere in that city, the aliens were already planning how to divide up human trade routes and colonies. They would split the wealth that humans had created and feel good about it. "Sir," said Captain Lee, the ship's pilot, "what do we tell Earth?" Kang Wu was quiet for a long time. Through the ship's windows, he could see other alien vessels. Some were already heading toward human space, ready to enforce the exile. Others would spread the news across the galaxy. The humans were finished. "We tell them the truth," he finally said. "We tell them that we are alone now, cut off from everything we built out here. But we also tell them something else." "What's that, sir?" Kang Wu smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had just learned what his enemies were really like. We tell them that being alone is not the same as being weak. We tell them that humans have survived worse things than this, and we tell them that someday, somehow, we will prove every one of those aliens wrong. The Soul's Pride jumped to hyperspace, carrying the last free humans away from the galaxy that had rejected them. Behind them, 800 alien species went back to their lives, sure that they had solved their human problem forever. They had no idea what humans could become when they had nothing left to lose. As the ship flew through the darkness between stars, Kang Wu made a promise to himself. The galaxy had turned its back on humanity, but humanity would not break. They would not fade away quietly. Instead, they would become something the aliens never expected, something stronger, something better, something that would make the galaxy regret this day for a very long time. The Soul's Pride carried that promise home to Earth, where 12 billion humans waited to learn that they were now truly alone in the vast, cold universe. But they would not stay alone forever. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humanity would make theirs.